Ever since I began bow hunting as a teenager, I had dreamed of going out west and hunting elk. In 2017, Nick, my brother-in-law, drew a New Mexico bull elk tag. While I wouldn't be the one hunting, I was thrilled to tag along with my camera. Nick and Paul, my father-in-law, went out a few days before the season started. They scouted and they got more familiar with the land.
Where are we at?
We don't know. We're out in the middle of nowhere.
On September 14th, the day before season started, I flew out early in the morning. I arrived in New Mexico just after 9 a.m. We drove to the cabin, we got things settled, and we explored a bit. Later that evening, we went to glass some places close to where we'd be hunting. We didn't have access to this property, but it bordered the land that we could hunt. We saw a ton of elk, we had some good bulls, and their bugling got us fired up for the next morning. We got back, we ate, we settled down, and anticipated the first morning of bow season. On September 15th, opening day, it was almost surreal walking into the mountains. On my first elk hunt, well before first light. On one hand, we knew there were elk in the area. We thought we had a great spot, yet we were by no means experts when it comes to elk hunting. We sat for a while, we heard a few bugling below us in a steep valley, and we made plans for the afternoon. That afternoon, we were going to a narrow funnel. As we were getting closer, we spooked several cows and a nice bull who were bedded right in the area we were going to. We sat the rest of the day, we heard some bugling on land we couldn't hunt, and considered it a success that we were within 100 yards of elk on our first day. We just hoped we didn't screw up the area too much. The next morning, we set up in the same spot as the evening before, the same place where we bumped elk on the way in. Our plan was to sit all day. This was our best option as this was a great travel corridor. The only hard part was we were close to the border of land where we couldn't hunt. Even though we heard a ton of elk bugling, rather than go after them, we had to stay put and hope that they would come our way. It was a pretty long day without seeing anything until around 5 o'clock in the evening. We could hear bugling in the distance, so Paul cow called several times. A few minutes later, I noticed an elk coming through the thick timber. I got Nick's attention and waited. He popped out 40 yards away, wanting to see the cow he thought was making the calls. He stood in the same spot for at least 15 minutes. Finally convinced there was no cow close, and he walked off. As the evening went on, bugles were ringing out throughout the valley. We traded cow calls with them, and the bull we saw earlier actually came back, but once again didn't fully commit. As the sun went down, we walked out to bugling bulls, excited for the next day. On day 3, other than a bear taking our garbage can from the front porch at about 2 o'clock in the morning, it was pretty uneventful. We heard some bugles in the morning, we hunted all day, but we didn't see anything. On day 4, we changed strategies, and we planned on putting some miles on our boots. We went out after sunup, we checked out a small pond, and then we hiked up to 10,000 feet and checked out a large open area midday. We walked over 6 miles up and down mountains. We enjoyed the views, we enjoyed the exercise, but we didn't see any elk. We came home before sunset, relaxed, and we made a plan of attack for the next day. The morning of day 5, we took a long UTV ride at dawn and then set up in a high meadow. After we didn't hear or see anything, we walked a lot, called, saw some great scenery, but once again with the wind, we had a hard time hearing anything, and our excitement from day 2 was starting to fade. That evening, we set up close to where we had an encounter on day 2. We were set up on a fence jump with tons of sign, but as the evening faded, we failed to see an elk. Day 6 had us excited. We finally got a break the night before when a friend of a friend put us in contact with a father-son team who knew the area and elk hunting very well. We were going to meet up with them that night for a quick hunt, so that day we checked out a few areas with no luck. But that night we were headed to hunt different terrain than we had seen before. And we were hunting sage flats, and there was sign everywhere. Ryan, who was calling for us, had killed a 350-inch and a 370-inch bull in this exact same spot in years past. As light faded, however, once again we went home empty-handed. Day 7 was our last day to hunt. Ryan's dad Al took us out in the morning, and we had bulls bugling below us, but the wind was wrong to go after them right away. We tried to get around them as the morning went on, but didn't see anything. Midday, we went to a great bedding area. There was sign everywhere, and we could smell the musty smell of elk. Al cow called, and immediately a bull responded over 100 yards away above us. We tried to get set up, but seconds later that bull bugled again, only he was right above us. I didn't even have time to really get set up with the camera, and he had closed the distance and was 40 yards above us coming fast. It was a great bull who had committed to come in, but just then the wind shifted and he fled. Once again, a shooter bull within 40 yards, but no shot. We checked out a couple more areas, but ultimately we were down to our last evening. We moved in hoping they would come down in the valley. We bumped a spike on our way in. We basically made our way all around the mountain, but as light started to fade, reality set in that we were probably going to go home empty-handed. After hunting hard for 7 days, I had a blast. We learned a ton about elk hunting and had a great time enjoying creation. As we drove home, I remember thinking about the experiences and the scenery that I will never forget, knowing full well that if we ever come back, we'll be much more knowledgeable and might even be able to put a bull on the ground.